Hi, everyone. Landry Ethredge here with Ethredge Counseling Group of Charleston, South Carolina. Here, joined today by Claire Johnson, who is here to talk to us all about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and some of the lingo that goes along with it. Love bombing, hoovering, some of these words that you may or may not be familiar with that have to do with narcissism. So, Claire, thank you so much for joining us. I think we're going to dive right in. Talk to us a little bit about what is this narcissistic cycle of abuse that we keep hearing so much about. What is that narcissistic cycle of abuse? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a cycle of predictable phases where a narcissist manipulates the person they're in a relationship with, mainly in order to get admiration from them and a sense of control in the relationship. Um,
Mm.
and it also always involves causing emotional harm.
Always
So,
involves causing emotional harm. Okay. What are some of the signs of that cycle? What is that predictable pattern that you're talking about?
yeah. So it always starts with the idealization phase, which is also the love bombing phase, which I'm
Mm.
sure is a term that many of us have heard recently. And that involves really showering the other person with admiration, um, praise, making you feel really special in a very intense way, like you're the most important person in the world. Usually happens very quickly. And the goal of that is for the narcissist to gain your trust, gain your admiration and emotional connection. And really, they start to assert a sense of control because often the partner becomes hooked because of they feel so special and unique in that
Mm.
phase.
Okay. That's
Um,
that love bombing
and
phase. So that's sort of that
yes,
first piece. Okay.
yeah. And then we move to devaluation phase. So often the narcissist could be triggered by a threat to their identity or their sense of self. And so they start to belittle their partner, criticize them, um, make them feel devalued. And it's a sudden shift between the love bombing and then all of a sudden, they're criticizing and hurting the other person, making them feel inadequate. Um, and so that's when they're trying to maintain that control that they've asserted.
Mhm. And is that
Um,
where maybe quote unquote gaslighting might be occurring? If so,
yeah,
what is
absolutely.
gaslighting? Can you kind of clarify for us what gaslighting actually is?
Yeah, so it's a form of emotional manipulation. It makes the person with narcissism makes their partner question their sense of reality. So they may deny something that they did or said. They may deny something that their partner did or said, and it makes you not understand your sense of reality. It makes you wonder if you're going crazy. And it just creates a lot of confusion. And in that way, they can gain control because you're not sure of what's really happening in your life.
Mm,
So it
so
can be
there's
very
really like
damaging.
chaos creating there.
Yeah.
So for the person in this relationship, they may feel really good at the beginning. Oh, I found the love
hmm
of my life. Then there's sort of this like chaos and confusion and hurt and pain.
Yeah.
And then what happens? What happens next?
Yeah. So then you move to the discarding phase. So that's when the person with narcissism is no longer feeling validated, is not really getting anything out of the relationship anymore. So they discard the other person. They either um, disengage, withdraw, or just abruptly end the relationship. And sometimes move on very quickly to find a new relationship. And it's really just they're done with you. They don't need anything else from you at that time.
At that time. So what is
Yeah.
hoovering? This is, I think, sort of a lesser known term, but for those of us who've researched it a bunch may have heard of this word. What is hoovering, and where does that fall into this cycle of abuse?
Yeah, so hoovering is the next phase, actually. So after
Mm.
the discarding phase, it's the narcissist's attempt to kind of reel the other person back in. They may feel lonely, bored, just need validation from someone else, and so they start to reach out. They may start to compliment you again. They may promise to change, just
Mm.
make these gestures, send these messages to kind of reel you back in and make you crave what you felt in the beginning of the
On the
relationship.
beginning. And so maybe the hope and the memory of that beginning phase is still alive in you, and you think, okay, well, maybe I can give it a shot. Maybe it can be like that again. And then that's kind of where it all starts over, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it starts over. Yeah.
So when is it time to leave? Like when do you know, okay, this is not a good path, this is not a good relationship, or I'm feeling gaslit, or how do you know when it's time to leave, and or when you still maybe have some work to do in the relationship?
Yeah. So if there's any type of abuse that starts, if you start to feel unsafe, that's definitely a sign that you should try and exit the relationship. Um, if you feel like there's no respect, if it's a completely one-sided relationship and um, you're starting to your sense of self-worth is being damaged, that's usually a sign that to try and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a complete unwillingness for the other person to compromise, that's usually a sign that it's going to be difficult to maintain a yeah, rocky road.
Yeah. Okay.
um, yeah, and then in terms of maybe it's you could stay, try and work on it. Um, they need to show some desire for change, some willingness to work on themselves. Often there's a really strong emotional connection, so that may be enough to continue in the relationship for a certain period of time. There's often complicated dynamics. You may have children with them, it may be a family member. So sometimes when those are present, there's more of an impetus to continue to work on it.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, there may be some dependence there of maybe this person is holding the purse strings, or yes, it can be very complicated, which I will mention it is to anyone listening, it is a really important to build your support system, because
Mhm.
narcissists can be unpredictable and dangerous. And so if there's ever a threat of physical harm, you definitely want to be very careful how you tread. So I think it's really crucial to find a therapist who is
Mhm.
familiar with narcissism, to kind of help you create a plan where you can stay safe, or there's particularly if there's children involved, they can stay safe too. So it is such a complicated issue, which is, I'm so glad that we're talking about this, and that so for anybody listening, Claire wrote a 5-part series on this topic. So definitely go over and give that a read. So important to educate yourself. Um, Claire, thank you so much for talking to us about this narcissistic cycle of abuse and helping us kind of figure out what it is so that we can recognize it more easily. It's so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you for having me.